Make sure it's okay. I think it should be. Perfect.
All right, well, good afternoon, Ms. Gonzalez.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
All right, so just want to go ahead and go over a recent test that we took and go over some of the scores that Sophia got on this test. So first thing I want to go ahead and look over on this test is the top portion, which gives all the information about the test. So as you can see, my name's here as the teacher, the school, district, Sophia's name, and the test date, which was back in March. Obviously it's May now, but we can go ahead and go over this so we can discuss where we can, improve Sophia's scores or where she's doing very well at. Okay. So this test is a general test of achievement that we took. So it basically tells us how Sophia is doing up to this point. And these scores are divided into two sections. So the top section is what's called our norm referenced information, and the bottom portion is what's called our criterion referenced information. So just to go a little bit more into detail, so we're going to go over the top portion first, which, like I said, is our norm referenced information, and that portion compares Sophia's scores to what's called a norm group. Okay, so up to this point, did you have any questions so far?
Yes. What is a norm group?
Good question. So a norm group is a group of students from across the nation who actually took this test before it was released so that we can have a group of students that we can compare Sophia's scores to.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what these scores are up here at the top.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and dive right in. So this first column here is going to show you the subtest that Sophia was tested on. So it breaks it down into, obviously the different subjects that she was tested on. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you go ahead and look at those real quick so you can go ahead and see if there's anything that pops out at you that you may have questions about.
Okay. So I see here a basic battery. Can you explain to me what that is?
Of course. So what basic battery is how she scored in the core subjects of the test.
Okay.
So for example, the core subjects that they really focus on in the third grade is going to be reading and math.
Okay.
So that basic battery is basically looking at those subjects and giving a score just for those particular subjects.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Did you see anything else that...
So off of that, so what is complete battery?
So what complete battery is the scores on all the subjects that she was tested on.
Okay.
Okay, so basic is, reading and math, and then complete is over all the subjects. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and go over the next columns here. So the next column we see here is going to be the number of items, which is the number of questions that were asked per subtest, per subject. Okay? So that's how many questions she was given. And the raw score, which is the next column, is going to be how many of those that Sophia got correct. Okay? So the next thing that we're going to go ahead and look over is the national percentiles. So what these are okay, so let's go ahead and look at one particular score so I can give you an example of what the national percentiles is. So we'll go ahead and look at the language score, for example. So Sophia scored in the 81st percentile. So that doesn't mean that she got an 81 on that subject, it just means she scored in the 81 percentile. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you this, this is what's called a bell curve. So this will help explain, what that national percentile means. So as we can see here, the percentiles, so this middle area is going to be where that norm group that I mentioned earlier, this is where they scored most of them in this area, this general area, okay? So as you can see, on this scale here that Sophia scored, in the 81st percentile, so that means she would be somewhere in this area, which means that she actually scored on the higher end of the norm of where the norm group scored. So that just means that she's doing, really well in that particular subject.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to go ahead and show you this so you can see,
Yes.
exactly what that percentile represents. Okay. So there's also what's called these percentile bands, and what these represent is that every standardized test has what's called a standard error of measurement. So basically what this means is that if Sophia were to take this test multiple times, this would be the range of scores that she would most likely score on the test. So for example, if we take that language one again, where she got an 81 percentile, that percentile band would take into effect the standard error measurement, which for this test was plus or minus 3.
Okay.
So that means her percentile band is anywhere from 78 to 84. So basically what we're doing is adding 3 to the score and subtracting 3, so that gives us our percentile band, which like I said is where the range that she would score in if she took the test multiple times. Okay, so that's what the percentile bands are.
So I see problem solving. So does that mean that Sophia's not doing well on problem solving since it's over here?
Well, let's take a look. So she scored in the 39th percentile. So again, let's go ahead and refer back to our bell curve so we can see exactly where that falls. So again, like I said, this is, the norm group area. So the 39 falls right about here. So she's still within the norm group of where, they scored at. So she's still doing well in it. Maybe not as well as in language, but she's still right there where the norm group's at. So like I said, that percentile doesn't mean that she got a 39 on it,
Yeah.
So it's more so we can refer back to this norm group area. So she's still doing well. She's still, doing what she needs to do in that subject. So
Okay, I see.
okay. All right. So the last column that we're going to go over on this top portion is going to be the scaled score. So the scaled score, what that is that it takes the raw score that she got and puts it into a common unit of measurement. Okay, so for example, if we look at how she scored in vocabulary, so she's got a scaled score of 498. So again, on that bell curve that we have, let's see here. So for this one, we're going to look at this scale instead. So this scale, obviously you can see goes from 200 to 800. So she scored, 498? So she's right there, right in the middle. So she's, right in the middle of where that norm group scored. So that's, where that just shows that she's doing very well in the vocabulary area as well.
Okay. Well, I'm still a little confused about the scaled score. Can you
Okay.
explain to me a little more?
Sure. So I guess an example that I can give about the scale score is if we were to do, if we were to take the heights of a classroom. So let's say, the shortest student in the classroom is 3 feet tall. The tallest student is, 6 feet tall. So then, our common unit of measurement will be feet. And, we can get the height of each person in the class and get an average of the class of what the height is. So the scaled score basically does that with the raw score. It takes, all of that information, turns it into something that we can get an average for. So if I want to see what the average was for just our classroom, I can go ahead and do that with that scaled score.
Okay. Yeah, that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. Alright, so now that we've gone over the top portion of the test results, we're going to go over this bottom section. So this is again what's called the criterion reference information. So what this does is it takes the top information and it breaks it down into specific skills.
Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna see some of the same categories as you saw on the top, like vocabulary and word analysis, but then you'll see these specific skills that fall under those larger categories. Okay, so again, let's see. Okay, so same thing as the top. I'm gonna go ahead and let you look over the specific skills and see if you have any questions on those before we jump into anything else.
Okay. Okay, so I see on here, inferential comprehension. What is that?
Okay, so what that is it tests Sophia on her ability to predict what's going to happen in a story based on the information she already has. So she may be reading a passage or something in the test, and then I'll ask her something like, based on what you've already read to this point, what do you think would happen next, and things like that. So she's able to make those inferences on what's going to happen based on what she already knows.
Okay, I see.
Okay.
Okay. So then, what are number facts?
Number facts. So what those are is it's Sophia's ability to do problems such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, without really having to work it out. So it's kind of testing to see if how quickly she can do things without having to work things out.
Okay.
So that's kind of like her just knowing things, knowing that 2 + 2 is 4, and not having to write it out and work it out, things like that.
Okay, I see. Yes.
So that's what number facts is. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and jump into the columns that this portion has. So again, it has the raw score here, which is kind of the same thing as it was up here. How many she got correct. The NP stands for number of problems, so the same thing as the number of items up here that she was tested on. So okay, so if we look under spelling, we can see that in sight words, she got a raw score of 10 out of 13. So that put her in the medium range. Okay, so what that basically means is that there's a low, medium, and high range. So that's how this portion kind of tells us how Sophia is doing in each skill. So for that particular skill, she scored in the medium range for that one. Okay, so let's see. So then let's just take another one for example. So under social studies, under history she got 4 out of 6. Or actually no, let's look at community. So in community she scored 5 out of 6, which also put her in the medium range. Okay, so just kind of giving you a little information on how she did on some of these and how to read this portion of it. Okay, so now let's look at science here. So at life science, as you can see, she got a 7 out of 7. So she scored perfect on that one, which put her in the high range. Okay, so she's doing very well in life science. Let me see. So, and some of these, let's see. So the life science, I do agree with that, assessment of her, because as you can see here on her portfolio, the last thing we worked on for science was the food chain.
Okay.
And she did very well on it. She knew, exactly, where things needed to go and how things were, leveled in the food chain.
Okay.
So that's just, one of the examples to show that she really does grasp life science very well, and that obviously reflected on this test score. Okay. All right, so let's see. So okay. So we can look here, like in the language section. So under language, you can see that, she was tested on these 4 specific skills: capitalization, punctuation, usage, and sentence structure. And as you can see, she scored high on every single one of those skills. So she's doing very well in language as well. So no concerns there. Based on her portfolio, I definitely agree with that. She, writes very well. Uses punctuation, uses spelling and everything like that. She's very good at. So this definitely obviously reflected in the test. So
Yes.
so she scored high in every one of those, and so let's see. So let's go ahead and take a look at one, like measurement, for example. So with measurement, as you can see, she got 5 out of 8, which put her in the low range. So with this one, some of the things that I can see that might have affected her as far as why she got in the low range is because, for one, she was only asked 8 questions in this skill. So that's not a whole lot to really see if she knows measurement and how to do those kind of problems. Okay, so with that one, I wouldn't look too much into it, just because with only 8 questions, you're only allowed to miss, she only missed 3 and she's already in the low range. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think if they would have asked her a little bit more questions on that, then we can really see, if she really understands it or not. But, that's just something I wanted to point out, is that even though she's scored in the low range, there's other factors such as that, this is why she might put in the low range. Okay. Did you see anything else on here that maybe had any questions about as far as the specific skills that she was tested on?
Yeah, so under listening, what is listening vocabulary? Yeah, listening vocabulary.
Okay.
Can you explain to me what that is?
Sure. So what listening vocabulary is Sophia's ability to understand the words, to know like what people are saying or what she hears.
Okay.
So for example, me and you were talking, if I'm, saying things that are not in your vocabulary that you don't understand, then obviously you're going to be kind of lost in the conversation. So
Okay, I see.
so they test her on that as well to see, if she understands, what she read, and they'll test her on some of the vocabulary words that were within that passage that she read, just to make sure that she understood.
Understood. Okay.
Okay. So, but yeah, as you can see, since you brought up the listening vocabulary section, that as well, like she got 16 out of 18, which put her in the high range. So she's actually doing very well in that. So looks like she listens very well and understands what she's listening to. Okay. So this is, like I said, this is kind of like a snapshot of kind of what Sophia, how Sophia's doing up to this point. So after we've gone over all this information about Sophia's test scores, did you have any other questions for me?
Not at this moment, but I'm sure I'll think of something. So if I do, I'll get in contact with you.
Okay, yeah. Please feel free to contact me. Don't hesitate. Whenever you think of any other questions about the scores or anything that has to do with Sophia and her education. So definitely want you to feel comfortable reaching out to me if you have any questions.
I will.
Okay. So I want to go ahead and let you take this copy. I have one already, so you can go ahead and take this copy of her scores, so that way you can refer back to it, look at it, see things that maybe will help you think of any other questions you might have, and we'll go from there as far as working on Sophia wherever she needs it.
Alright, sounds good.
Okay. Alright, I'll go ahead and take this, and it was a pleasure meeting you, Mrs. Gonzalez, and you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Alright.
Here, get